There is only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. The secret of genius is to carry the spirit of the child into old age, which means never losing your enthusiasm. That humans do not learn very much from the lessons of history is the most important of all the lessons of history. Technological progress has merely provided us with more efficient means for going backwards. Experience is not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. There are things known and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you mad. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. Maybe this world is another planet's hell. To travel is to discover that everyone is wrong about other countries. An unexciting truth may be eclipsed by a thrilling lie. It is a bit embarrassing to have been concerned with the human problem all one's life and find at the end that one has no more to offer by way of advice than try to be a little kinder. Every human's memory is their private literature. Beauty is worse than wine. It intoxicates both the holder and the beholder. Greatest truth, but still greater from a practical point of view, is silence about truth. By simply not mentioning certain subjects, totalitarian propagandists have influenced opinion much more effectively than they could have by the most eloquent denunciations. The charm of history and its enigmatic lesson consists in the fact that from age to age, nothing changes, and yet everything is completely different. The propagandist's purpose is to make one set of people forget that certain other sets of people are human. Every human who knows how to read has it in their power to magnify themselves, to multiply the ways in which they exist, to make this life full, significant, and interesting. An intellectual is a person who's found one thing that's more interesting than sex. Most ignorance is vincible ignorance. We don't know because we don't want to know. The most valuable of all education is the ability to make yourself do the thing you have to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. Dream in a pragmatic way. The more powerful and original a mind, the more it will incline towards the religion of solitude. I'm afraid of losing my obscurity. Geniuses only thrive in the dark, like celery. There isn't any formula or method. You learn to love by loving, by paying attention and doing what one thereby discovers has to be done. My father considered a walk among the mountains as the equivalent of church-going. Experience teaches only the teachable. Humanity is an intelligence in servitude to its organs. A belief in hell and the knowledge that every ambition is doomed to frustration at the hands of a skeleton have never prevented the majority of human beings from behaving as though death were no more than an unfounded rumor. Everyone who wants to do good to the human race always ends in universal bullying. One of the great attractions of patriotism, it fulfills our worst wishes. In the person of our nation, we are able, vicariously, to bully and cheat. Bully and cheat. What's more, with a feeling that we are profoundly victorious. Hell isn't merely paved with good intentions. It's walled and roofed with them. Yes, and it's furnished too. Perhaps it's good for one to suffer. Can an artist do anything if they're happy? Would they ever want to do anything? What is art, after all, but a protest against the horrible inclemency of life? My fate cannot be mastered. It can only be collaborated with, and thereby, to some extent, directed. Nor am I the captain of my soul. I am only its noisiest passenger. The worst enemy of life, freedom, and the common decencies is total anarchy. The second worst enemy is total efficiency. So long as humans worship the Caesars and Napoleons will duly arise and make them miserable. Consistency is contrary to nature, contrary to life. The only completely consistent people are dead. Idealism is the noble toga that political gentlemen drape over their will to power. Cynical realism is the intelligent man's best excuse for doing nothing in an intolerable situation. There's only one effectively redemptive sacrifice. The sacrifice of self-will to make room for the knowledge of the gods. habit converts luxurious enjoyments into dull and daily necessities. A man may be a pessimistic determinist before lunch and an optimistic believer in the will's freedom after it. A fanatic is one who consciously overcompensates a secret doubt. A democracy which makes or even effectively prepares for modern scientific war must necessarily cease to be democratic. No country can be really well prepared for modern war unless it is governed by a tyrant. At the head of a highly trained and perfectly obedient bureaucracy. All gods are homemade, and it is we who pull their strings, and so give them the power to pull ours. A childlike man is not a man whose development has been arrested. On the contrary, he is a man who has given himself a chance of continuing to develop long after most adults have muffled themselves in the cocoon of middle-aged habit and convention. Most of one's life is one prolonged effort to prevent oneself from thinking. Like every other good thing in this world, leisure and culture have to be paid for. Fortunately, however, it is not the leisured and the cultured who have to pay. Children are remarkable for their intelligence, and adore for their curiosity, their intolerance of shams, the clarity and ruthlessness of their vision. There is no substitute for talent. Industry and all its virtues are of no avail. That all men are equal is a proposition to which, at ordinary times, no sane human being has ever given his assent. Chastity, the most unnatural of all the sexual perversions. Uncontrolled, the hunger and thirst after God may become an obstacle, cutting off the soul from what it desires. If a man would travel far along the mystic road, he must learn to desire God intensely, but in stillness, passively, and yet with all his heart and mind and strength. There is something curiously boring about somebody else's happiness. Your true traveler finds boredom rather agreeable than painful. It is the symbol of his liberty, his excessive freedom. He accepts his boredom when it comes, not merely philosophically, but almost with pleasure. Words, words, words. They shut one off from the universe. Three-quarters of the time, one's never in contact with things, only with the beastly words that stand for them. The most shocking fact about war is that its victims and its instruments are individual human beings, and that these individual beings are condemned by the monstrous conventions of politics to murder or be murdered in quarrels not their own. Science has explained nothing. The more we know, the more fantastic the world becomes, and the profounder the surrounding darkness. What is absurd and monstrous about war is that humans who have no personal quarrel should be trained to murder one another in cold blood. Specialized meaninglessness has come to be regarded in certain circles as a kind of hallmark of true science. The vast majority of human beings dislike and even actually dread all notions with which they are not familiar. Hence it comes about that at their first appearance, innovators have generally been persecuted and always derided as fools and madmen. The finest works of art are precious, among other reasons, because they make it possible for us to know, if only imperfectly and for a little while, what it actually feels like to think subtly and feel nobly. Happiness is a hard master, particularly other people's happiness. Bondage is the life of personality, and for bondage, the personal self will fight with most tireless resourcefulness and the most stubborn cunning. We are all geniuses up till the age of 10. Those who believe that they are exclusively in the right are generally those who achieve something. Like every human of sense and good feeling, I abominate work. Official dignity tends to increase in inverse ratio to the importance of the country in which one's office is held. The quality of moral behavior varies in inverse ratio to the number of human beings involved. people intoxicate themselves with work so they won't see how they really are. It was one of those evenings when men feel that truth, goodness, and beauty are one. In the morning, when they commit their discovery to paper, when others read it written there, it looks wholly ridiculous. That we are not much sicker and much madder than we are is due exclusively to that most blessed and blessing of all natural graces, sleep. Amour is the one human activity of any importance in which laughter and pleasure preponderate, if ever so slightly, over misery and pain. What we think and feel and are is to a great extent determined by the state of our ductless glands and viscera. The impulse to cruelty is, in many people, almost as violent as the impulse to sexual love, almost as violent and much more mischievous. From their experience, or from the recorded experience of others, history, men learn only what their passions and their metaphysical prejudices allow them to learn. The most distressing thing that can happen to a prophet is to be proved wrong. The next most distressing thing is to be proved right. What with making their way and enjoying what they have won, heroes have no time to think. But the children of heroes, they have all the necessary leisure.